next month is an entirely new schedule. So next week, we're going to have Paul Winsky presenting Identifying Beneficial Insects in the Garden. But thank you so much for attending these. So welcome and thank you for joining us again. I'm Brandy Keller, the Master Gardener Program Coordinator in Harris County. I will be doing another talk next month. That's going to be July 23rd, and the topic is going to be Offbeat Garden Eats. So we'll take a look at some of the edible landscapes that we have and then what we can do with that food. So the topic today is youth gardening. We haven't really had a collective group of youth gardening resources in Harris County previously. So what we talk about today will be a start of more to come. And other than this first photo, all the photos are either mine or a master gardener or a coworker. So all the photos are experiences that we've had within Extension. So one of the beauties of gardening with kids is that they are involved with every aspect of growing food. Some kids simply haven't been exposed to where food comes from. And so that's not only exciting for them, but it's exciting for the adults that teach that too. So what we'll talk about, hold on, what we'll talk about what we consider youth gardens here and the reasons to even have one. We'll stress the importance of proper planning, different edible gardens in various sizes, the overview of the cylinder garden. I skipped over easy veggies to plant, so we'll take a look at 5 of those. And then in action, we'll take a look at some of the photos of youth gardening that we have seen in action. So first of all, I'm going to have Susan put up a poll. Who here has currently had a youth garden? And this is going to be the first time we've done a poll, so we're gonna be curious to see how this works. When you look at your chat where the little dialogue bubble is, you'll be able to ask a question. Right there should be where the poll is, and then you can answer yes or no. Who currently has a youth garden? And then Kim, when I'm done talking in just a minute, if you could go ahead and get a count for that. So for this particular talk, as it pertains to what we're talking about today, youth gardens involve school, home schools, community groups, community gardens, and really any kind of group that comes together. It could be a pre-K school, an after-school program. So Kim, is that working with the poll?
Yes, it is. So far, 2 people responded.
Okay. All right. So I guess everyone else, that just says that I guess we have the right audience. All right. So why have a youth garden? Well, the most obvious is the opportunity to have an outdoor classroom. Number 1, nutrition. Kids are more likely to eat food they have grown, and it teaches them also where food comes from. Sometimes it's their first exposure to that particular food. A sense of accomplishment, starting, pending, and finishing a project with that physical reward, all while requiring like patience and practice. And that is hard to come by right now in our age of immediate gratification. Gardening can relate to just about any school topic, so it turns that garden really into an actual outdoor classroom that teaches math, science, health, so many other topics. And then some students, especially the older ones like high school, they can take that produce and sell it at farmers markets. So those students get to learn the side of business to it. Exercise, kids are more active outdoors. It engages all the senses. And then most importantly, it's just really fun and it brings that class and the teachers and staff together. All right, so I had to input, I had to add this picture of my niece. She's so tiny here, but it was just a really adorable moment that I'll never forget. So these are my two photos that explain why kids should grow food. Look at that face. It's such a teeny tiny strawberry. For us adults, we'd probably be like, oh gosh, that's just too tiny. And she's so excited. And then look at that face after she's eaten it. So not only is that expression completely heartwarming, but it leaves you wondering too. She even has another bite. Like that strawberry was so small, and she got 2 bites out of it. She's probably taller than me now. Um, so plan for success. I'm going to actually spend 2 slides on this because I just feel like it's so important. Plan for success and follow through. So all of these fundamentals that you see right here interact with one another. You need money for building the garden, for tools, for providing maintenance, support. We'll talk a little bit more in the next slide. But when youth gardens fail, it's usually a lack of support and time. Knowledge, gardening is always a challenge, but it can be learned, but it takes that time and interest and support. It is funny with gardens. I think it's one of those things that people take for granted, that it's just really easy. But there's so many different disciplines involved, like with soil, botany, diagnosing problems, watering, beneficial insects. So the longer you're in it, the more you realize what a complex hobby it is. and then it takes all three support, funding, and knowledge to support that maintenance. But all of those things require time, and that's usually one thing that teachers state that they are short on. I am going to have Kim post a link right now. I just thought it was a really great read based on an article with, I believe the title had something to do with why gardens fail, but it really isn't about failing. It's about showing what others' experiences are and learning from their mistakes. But I thought it was a really great article. So I'm going to focus on 2 tips for getting started. Number 1, start small and then have your support in place. This is before you start your garden. So you can have a bigger goal, but start with a small space, start with a few plants, and then use those plants for repetition. This allows for a better understanding, starting to gain a knowledge about certain plants, and then it can catch your children's attention too. And this is also a time for trial and error. And then those experiences will give you more confidence for larger goals. So it never hurts to start small. If you start really large, that can really self-sabotage. And then with this experience, it also gives you an understanding of the medium, what grows well where and why, and taking into consideration variabilities like sun exposure, water, and temperature.
Brandy, excuse me, are you trying to move forward on the slides? Because we're still on plan for success.
Is it plan for success, start small, and support in place?
Oh, okay. We're still on that. Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the support, why do you want a garden to begin with? If you have really great reasons that you can put down on paper and they look good on paper, then those reasons are going to translate really well to getting the support of people and funding. Many gardens exist because of just one person, and this happens all the time, and it even happens with one of the gardens that we'll look at. So it's really important to have the principal on board, maybe some other administration, teachers, and then consider volunteers out in the community in addition to the parents and students. So even though this graphic kind of doesn't jive with the other look of the presentation, it shows that iceberg that we always, talk about, like the tip of the iceberg. So what we think about gardening is that top part, the fun stuff, planting, maintenance, eating. But all the other stuff that you don't see is just as important. And you have to wonder, why you would want your garden to be a success, because those kids are watching everything, which means if the adults haven't planned properly and it doesn't really become fruitful, then those kids see that and they see that it's not that easy, that it's not that fun, and that it isn't really something they can do. So that's really important to remember. All right, types of edible gardens. So there's many types, but the most common would be herbs, vegetables, and fruits. Flowers, there are some edible flowers like nasturtiums and squash blossoms, but the flowers are really important for the pollinators in order to support those vegetables and the fruit. So how big should your garden be? There's really an option regardless of your answer and what your limitations are. The upper left picture is of microgreens. This is really a popular activity with our youth activities. Those are young stages of certain vegetables like radish, lettuce, basil, broccoli. So they can be grown in a windowsill or under a grow light indoors. So basically you just snip those seedlings and then you add them to salad. Container gardenings can grow vegetables just as well generally as raised beds. There are some varieties though that do better in containers, but we're going to talk about some of the containers a little later. Raised beds, if you have a little bit more space, a raised bed is great for the plant roots. It gives them more space to breathe. The soil doesn't get compacted from walking on it, and eventually it creates larger plants. And some raised beds can be elevated, so they actually accommodate adults and children with disabilities. And then vertical gardens, which is probably one of the least known of the four. This is a vertical tower indoors. Up above it, what you can't see is a grow light. Down below is a pool to catch the water. But outdoors, you can have vertical gardens too, whether it be a pallet that's tilted, a wall with pots, or even an espaliered fruit tree. So an espalier tree would be one that's pruned right up against like maybe a trellis or a wall, and then shorter too, so it's easier to pick. And then, of course, other factors we're really not going to go into today because I think there's more opportunity to learn in July. Other factors you have to consider are light, water, drainage. How accessible is it? You do not want a garden that's going to be way far away from everything or even hidden. And then the other major consideration is, where is your water source? You want to have that water source close by, because otherwise it'll just be too much of a hassle. So you want to set yourself up for that success. So there's a lot of other vegetables you can grow too, but in order to support the starting small, we've picked 5 vegetables here that are pretty easy to grow for any type of garden. So the carrots are always high reward. When the kids pull out that colorful vegetable from underneath the ground, they're always amazed. Beans and cucumbers, they can take advantage of vertical gardening because they can grow up. And then the radishes and spinach, and lettuce, besides just being easy and fast, those two can be used, as mentioned before, with microgreens. So One thing I'd like you to walk away with today is knowing where to find some of the resources for gardening. All 5 of these vegetables have A&M fact sheets, and I'm going to show you where that information can be found because sometimes we can tell you where it is, but when you see it, it's a lot easier. So this is the Aggie Horticulture page. The website is in green, so it's aggiehorticulture.tamu.edu. And then I have the red circle around vegetable resources, then easy gardening fact sheets. And these are the gardening fact sheets. So on the left are mainly all the vegetables that they have fact sheets on. And on the right are some other supporting topics like composting, planning, planting, mulching, soil preparation. So a lot of those are very useful. So we're going to use carrots for an example. So four down on the left side, if you clicked on carrots, this 3-page PDF will come up. Yeah, it's not even 1 page. It's like a good bit of information. So it not only shows how to plant, how to maintain, how to harvest, you know, it includes a few other things in there. And I'm not sure if I gave Kim the carrot link. I don't think I did because it's going to come up later. Did I?
No, but I recently posted the planting chart.
Oh, okay. Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we're not going to go over this slide comprehensively, but it does show how you can consider for seasons in that garden. So all 5 of those easy vegetables are in bold, and that covers 3 different seasons, spring, fall, and winter. Who wants to garden in summer anyway? Kip Richter likes to, and his okra. So if you like okra, pepper, you can do the summer. But there's also year round, like herbs and pollinator flowers. So you can have a garden that has a bigger purpose, and that is covering more of the season. Here is the vegetable planting chart that Kim just posted. The dark green is the ideal planting time, and then the light green is the marginal. So, you know, you really can plant. It just may not be the most ideal. And then at the very bottom, it has the last and the first freeze dates for hobby and bush. As you well know, there's a difference between our freeze opportunities between those 2 airports. So Cylinder Garden, this is a program that AgriLife Extension has been doing for a good number of years that allows kids to learn how to grow vegetables from seed to harvest in 1 semester. While the instructions are really geared towards 3rd grade, it can be adapted from pre-K to high school. We have every single grade register. And so this would be for schools, homeschools, after-school programs, and other groups, just not individuals. So on the left, you can see the example of the radish. So depending on the vegetable, it depends on the number of seeds that's glued to the napkin. And then that napkin is planted, soil's added, they water, and then they harvest. And as you see, you can kind of see the white ring, which is the bucket that you also see in the upper right. So we do supply the buckets, seeds, fertilizer, and instructions. But some schools don't want the buckets, or they've already received them and they don't need more. So then you can just opt for the seeds and the instructions. Or in the bottom right-hand corner example, they may have a raised bed or an in-ground garden, and so you can just order those. I do believe I gave Kim this website too. We are not sure how the fall's going to look, so we're just going to have to wait and see just how the school semester. We don't know, and I know the schools don't know right now. So we're just going to take that day by day or week by week until we figure out how that's going to work.
Excuse me. Can you tell me if the buckets are have drain holes?
So the buckets, yeah, that's a really good question. The buckets actually have the bottoms cut off. So yeah, so they end up being cylinders, and they end up being about 5 inches tall. In this example, it's in a bed, but these are designed that you can even put newspaper down and put it directly onto concrete or bare dirt.
Mm-hmm.
But it just takes the place of a container. All right, Kim, are there any other questions?
Are you ready for the questions?
Not
Not that I see.
Okay, okay. Yeah, let's just go ahead and we'll do the next slides. Okay. So now I'm just going to present some photos of youth gardens in action around Harris County. This harvest actually came from an elementary school that a master gardener worked in for almost 20 years. I do not want to take credit. It was not a master gardener project. It was just a really super dedicated volunteer who she was that one person that just kept it going. And this is the same school. So whether it's in the fall or the spring, every single child in that school year, in one full school year, gets to plant, help go maintain, harvest, and then take an entire baggie of vegetables home with them. Very inspiring. Look at that harvest. It's beautiful. I love the 2 little purple. Here they are planting, harvesting carrots. You have a really great green bean harvest. And there's her big old bag of peppers. So she got to take that home, and hopefully, you know, she took it home, and hopefully that their enthusiasm from the garden is conveyed to the parents. And hopefully, you know, the end goal is always to try to get them to eat healthier and fresher food. And then this is the garden, an overview. This is a pretty extensive garden, so this is not an example of starting small. You can barely see the 5 rectangular vegetable beds in the back. Then there's 4 smaller beds that are themed: a pizza, a garden, an herb garden, and then everything else, including that butterfly, is all for pollinator plants. So here's the microgreens again. We have a master gardener group called Growing with Plants in Nature, and they did start a Facebook virtual group. And one of the activities they do on a regular basis is they help kids grow microgreens. And in this case, they actually learned about how to recycle plastic bottles too. This is a very small JMG group, and this leader actually purchased the JMG curriculum, which is an option, and I do give a link to that later on. But on the left, they're learning about the soil profile, and then they take that soil, and on the right, they planted their own potatoes in potato bags. So I hope some of these photos just give you, give you ideas. So we have a juvenile detention program. These are older kids, more like high school. But they also go through every part of gardening. The front 2 beds up in the upper right look newer, so they probably helped build those. You know, they harvest and they take care of those vegetables. Oh, and I know they had a lot of really great recipes made with them too. So 2 gardens that you can go and visit. that would give you a good example of youth gardens. One is Centennial Gardens in Herman Park Conservancy. Their family garden has over 25 beds, and the master gardeners take care of those. And as you see, those beds are elevated, so they really do accommodate adults and children with disabilities. And the two side pictures, they're picking up those colorful carrots. And then Genoa Friendship Gardens Satellite Garden. So during Harvey, our Harris County extension flooded, and that meant that our gardens flooded. But we did have a satellite garden on the southeast side of Harris County, right off of Genoa Red Bluff Road. If you are interested in bringing any groups of kids, you can contact me. And this was a pre-K group, and they dug up their own onions. So I put this resources flyer together, and I'll have Kim post it. I'm not sure with posting to Teams if she was able to post the PDF, but every one of those lines is a hyperlink. So I'm going to show you an example. So the Harris County resources, if you click on the first line, you're going to get the planting chart, and it's going to take you to where it's actually located, so you can investigate around there. The vegetable varieties, these are varieties that the horticulture agents have determined do the best in our Harris County heat and humidity. This is the Cylinder Garden program link, and I think Kim has that. She'll post that. And also the other thing, and just let me know, Kim, if you do, I sent the link. I'm starting a youth garden newsletter, so you can go ahead and sign up for that if you're interested. And then when that goes out, you'll be the first. And then this is the Growing with Plants and Nature virtual Facebook page. It's spelled, the words are Growing in Plants and Nature, Growing with Plants and Nature virtual group. And then you have to answer a few questions, and they really do post a lot of really cool videos that are geared towards younger children. I do not have on here the rest of them, but I do want to mention real quickly when it comes to gardening, the AgriLife Learn is a website that you can create an account, and then there are different courses that you can take. One of them under plants is Gardening 101 course. So if you're really serious about gardening, that course is actually almost about 32 hours. So it's really hefty, and it's free right now. It became free right when COVID happened, and it's going to be free till the end of the year. So I would take advantage of that. And then you can look around at what other courses there are. Then the vegetable fact sheets, which I showed you, and then how to grow a garden. That link will take you to a bunch of different links. The thing that I like best about this is that it actually gives some options for Spanish translation. And then the Junior Master Gardener program and Learn, Grow, Eat, Go program, that link will take you directly there. The Learn, Grow, Eat, Go program is a curriculum, and it teaches kids about plants, how to grow them, and then it incorporates recipes, how to eat them. And then the Go part is the exercise component. All right, so the summary, basically the support team. You need a really good support team. I'd consider putting together a committee of community members or parents. This could make them feel like they're actually a part of the garden and not just a visitor that comes and waters and mulches. That article that I had mentioned, it brought up a really great point about how, you know, we have art teachers and librarians, and how educational a garden could be, that there's a lot of reason why someone or a school could actually provide a paid garden manager.
Excuse me, Brandy.
Yep.
You want to answer a couple questions?
I just have two more in my summary and then we'll be done.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Okay,
So
stand by.
then the second point is use that space as an outdoor classroom, not just an avenue from, the back door to the playground or, whatever, or even just going out to harvest. It's like you really utilize that space as a classroom. And then know your resources. I provided a bunch. So hopefully that'll get you started. So, okay, Kim, go ahead.
Okay, so the first question is, are there classes for Junior Master Gardener?
There are not. How JMG works is they usually need a leader, and that leader can be through 4-H. Right now, we don't have someone in 4-H that I'm aware of that really leads anything like that. But one of our 4-H agents could definitely probably be a resource to let you know how to do that. That curriculum can be purchased, and so you don't actually need someone here at Extension to do it. But there are. It's something that we could probably, if we got someone that handled it, it would benefit us and you. But if you go to that website, it'll tell you how to purchase that curriculum.
Okay, ready for your next question?
Sure.
Could you repeat the info for the 32-hour program?
Okay, so Kim, were you able to post that PDF?
I was, yes.
Okay.
The link.
So on the PDF, if you click on that link, which is AgriLife Learn, it does require you to create an account, but it's called Gardening 101. It's under the category for plants. There's a lot of different departments within Extension, so horticulture is only one of them. So the Gardening 101 is about 32 hours. It isn't a certification that leads anywhere. It's a way to help educate the public, but it does have a lot of different modules, like from soil, plant parts, plant health, turf is in there, things like that. So it is pretty comprehensive. Are there any other questions?
No.
Oh, Susan, if Susan's still on here, we're going to try another poll.
The poll wasn't working. I asked them just to type yes or no.
Oh, okay.
But we can try again.
Yeah, no, that's just something we were trying to see how it worked. So the second poll was, do you plan to take part or start a youth garden in the next year? We had to say next year, right? In the next year, we can't say in a few months. We don't know what's going to happen. All right, any other questions?
No other questions.
Okay, did Susan get that up? Is that working? Because I wouldn't worry about it if it's.
See.
It will not work unless they are in our organization.
Okay, all right, well, we can figure that out later. All right, so if there's no other questions, I really appreciate you making it today. I'm Brandy Keller. My next talk is July 23rd, Offbeat Garden Eats. And next week, it's Paul Winsky, Identifying Beneficial Insects.
Okay, Brandy, sorry, one other question. Someone asked, how much does it typically cost to get this started? I posted in the comments that it depends on your garden size and the material, but if you'd like to elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very broad answer, because we don't know what there are just so many variations to a youth garden. I mean, you can have container pots if you have in ground. I don't necessarily have an estimate for that, but we are, if you do sign up for that youth gardening newsletter, I am going to put together more training. This was really an overview and really focusing on planning, but then subsequent talks will involve a little bit more on how to do things. But that's a real general question. I'd like to give you an answer, but I think it's going to be real individual depending on what your location is. If you're already starting with something, are you going to be putting in raised beds in ground? So there's a lot of variables there. All right.
All right, looks like there are no other questions.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And here's my email if you have any questions, and please sign up for that newsletter. And you will be getting the survey. So that will help us just figure out where we go with these talks. And it'll take a short period of time. All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye, thank you.
Bye.
Bye, Brandy. Bye.